Haters of Mushoku Tensei will look you dead in the eyes and say that this episode of MT was just straight up garbage, and also the series is straight up garbage, and that Rudy never goes through any character development, despite this episode proving the exact opposite. And honestly, after this episode, I dare say that this is probably the best arc of the anime, and most likely the best episode, or at least my personal favorite episode when it comes to character development for Rudy and other side characters throughout the story. Because this episode holds a lot of significance that basically plays on Rudy's character and develops him even more than he already was, but also it expands upon his previous life and just how much he has changed since basically the first season and the first few episodes of the story. And I mean, anyone that was watching this episode without a blindfold, and you know, if you actually do have media literacy, I think you legitimately are going to just look at this episode and be like, holy crap, this was an emotional episode. Because when you get to this scene in the middle of the episode where, like, Norn opens up the veil and she reveals her brother here, it is a very symbolic scene, because what she first sees is her father looking very depressed, very ragged, and just like not taking care of himself. And as she stares at this, individual which she thinks is her father, she closes her eyes, opens it up again, focuses her eyes, and sees her brother. And in this moment, it says a lot about, just for one, the extent that the animators of this story will go to really throw in this symbolic meaning and let you, as the audience, the anime onlys and just anime watchers, appreciate the character development on full display here without really any words whatsoever. It respects your intelligence, but on top of that, it showcases the level of writing of Mushoku Tensei from the author of the series that, was just able to craft such a great, development for these characters here with very few words as well. So let's get headfirst into that, okay? So this episode, for one, the main focus of it, if we really had to nail it down, is Rudy's overall, I guess, past and how he has progressed since his original life, and also Norn as a character and showcasing how she's settling in to her new life, so to speak, living next to her brother and with her sister as well. It's a very fascinating episode, because last week with the episode that came out, we had the reintroduction of Aisha and Norn as characters, and I even made a video after my review last week talking about the two sisters and how there was some content that was cut that could make people's impressions of Norn a little bit more on the negative side. For instance, not liking Norn because she seemed very annoying, or she just seemed to hate Rudy for no reason whatsoever. But this episode pretty much gave clarification to her feelings towards everything around her, and I feel like the way it is done, it's beautiful. It honestly fixes any problem I think any anime only would have, and any original source reader would have technically for Norn's character, with how this episode was presented. Because we get to see a lot of her perspective and how she, is constantly reminded of just how brilliant her brother is, how incredible her brother is, how much of a genius he is, and going throughout your life constantly being compared to someone and hearing their name, it's going to make you gain some envy and animosity towards that person, especially when it's already been established just with the previous episode that Norn has an inferiority complex. She feels like she's already inferior to Aisha, her other sister, and you throw in now Rudy being basically a genius being stacked up against that, that anger and that inferiority she feels is just going to grow exponentially. And so her going through these multiple emotions of just like feeling like she is inadequate, she is just in the way, so to speak, but also, being told by her own father that she idolizes, that apparently Rudy is a good person, even though Norn's only memory of Rudy is, Rudy beating the crap out of her father. It makes a lot of sense why she would not like him whatsoever, despite, obviously, everybody else throughout her entire life that she's being introduced to saying Rudy is an incredible person. And I really like that, because one of the things that this episode tries to showcase is that there is many different sides to people. For instance, Norn's perspective on the whole ordeal, before obviously opening up to Rudy and, them having a heart-to-heart crying moment, is that Norn's perspective is that Rudy is just this jerk, someone that is just mean, someone that potentially potentially might hit her, someone that just has no respect for family whatsoever. That's, her perspective a little bit throughout the episode until she finally admits to herself Rudy isn't this devil or demon that she thought he was, because she has to admit that he truly is caring, kind, and according to what she keeps hearing from everybody, it's clear that, he is a kind person, and that, he wants what's best for her as well. And I think that everything what this episode showcases is just like her anger, but also her acceptance and understanding as well. But also it gets into the aspect of Rudy's character development and how he was able to make a decision to help Norn out, but also Norn came to a conclusion pretty much on her own as well. So let's dive head first into that, since I'm talking about character development, etc. So Norn, her big issue here is, in the drama, or what's at stake here, is that she is shutting herself off to the outside world. Pretty much, she is in the same circumstance as how Rudy was in his previous life. As we know, before Rudy got reincarnated, he was a 30, almost 40-year-old man that was a shut-in. He did not leave his room whatsoever. He didn't even attend his family, his parents' funeral when they died. He was just a complete shut-in. And he was pretty much, quote-unquote, you could basically say a loser. But the reason why he was like that in the first place was because he got bullied in school. He got stripped down, basically, and just put on display in front of everyone. Obviously, he was embarrassed. His reputation was ruined. He tried to stand up to bullies, and that's just what happened to him, so to speak. He just ran off, and he stayed in his room for the rest of his life until the day he died in his previous life. So he understands the feelings of being bullied and being put on display as just like a clown show, so to speak, but also someone that, just feels isolated or lonely. And so throughout the episode, Rudy thinks that Norn is in a similar state, that she's potentially being bullied, and she's just cutting herself off from the outside world. And throughout the episode, Rudy finds out that Norn, has anger towards him because of comparison. And he realizes this in that moment, and he realizes that there is nothing he can really say to fix Norn's feelings towards him until she decides to change the feelings herself. And so no matter what he does, it's just up to Norn to take his hand. And so in this case, when Rudy tries to plead with her and she opens up the curtain and all that to actually see him for who he is, it's not Rudy that actually made her change. It was Norn initiating and making the change on her own. And I think this is a very powerful segment to showcase the difference that she is from Rudy's past self. And that's what Rudy meant at the end of the episode, is that she sorted out her feelings on her own. And this is something that Rudy was not able to do. And I think that this is a very powerful message, is that Rudy, in his previous life, as I said, he literally was not able to leave his room and open up to someone, and he died. That's what happened. He straight up died. And the only way he was able to finally open up and be where he's at now is thanks to, just for instance, Paul, thanks to Zenith, thanks to Sylphie, and thanks to Roxy, definitely, is to why he's here right now. And it was multiple people that really paved his way to be able to finally break out of his shell, to be able to not just be a complete shut-in. However, Norn wasn't like that. She just straight up got the courage, and she's like, I'm not going to run away, I'm going to face my problems, and she got up, and she did it on her own. And you can see in this moment, Rudy feels a little bit inferior, but at the same time, there is some admiration. He admires Norn's ability to overcome this on her own and not waste her entire life. In this way, Rudy's like, I'm thankful that she didn't do what I did, but he's like, why couldn't I do that? Why could I not take those steps that Norn was able to do? But Rudy comes to the understanding that there's nothing that could be done about it. For instance, that past life he had is long gone. No matter how much he wants to dwell on it, etc., nothing's going to change what has already happened in his life. And that's why, he's making changes now to make sure his life is good. He's living up his life, so to speak. And I think it's just a very powerful message, honestly, showcasing how people deal with problems in very different ways. And sometimes, even if it is the exact same problem as another person, the way they process feelings and how they overcome these feelings is just something that everybody takes very differently. And I think that is also a really good message. And it just shows the level of quality of writing that the author has to be able to do pretty much the exact same thing with two different characters, like drama elements basically, or character flaws, and allow them to overcome them. I think that's just powerful. Very powerful writing, and it's one of the reasons why I respect Mushoku Tensei, and I think why a lot of people respect the story is because of that. The only people that really don't respect Mushoku Tensei is either those that are just blind haters, those that just want action, or those that, they don't like Rudy as a character. Now, to be fair, there is elements of Mushoku Tensei that can be critiqued and isn't perfect, I know that, but at the same time, though, the series isn't as awful as people try to make it seem. Like, they try to make it seem like it is an absolute demonic series, so to speak, that is without morals, etc. That's clearly not the case. Rudy really has developed a lot, and his relationship with his family and friends has just grown, and it's beautiful, honestly. I really love to see it. So, yeah, overall, Mushoku Tensei this week, legitimately fantastic with the character development. I also love Ruijerd's role in everything, basically him saying that Rudy isn't a bad guy. He really does try his best. I think it's such a great thing, too, because it showcases that Norn has a lot of respect for Ruijerd, has a lot of respect for Paul, and the fact that both of them pretty much, said Rudy's not a bad guy, I think is also one of another big reasons why she was able to sort out her feelings. But, I want to wrap up the video here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content and you want more of my videos to appear in your subscription feed, then do subscribe, leave a like, hit that bell icon, and with that, Chibi out.